Before I knew your name, my heart was waiting. Before I knew your name, I knew there was something my heart had been waiting for. I couldn't tell you what it was. I couldn't describe its shape. I couldn't give it a face. I only knew that somewhere inside me, there was a quiet space that had never quite been filled. Not because I was incomplete, not because I needed someone to come and rescue me, but because there are certain things the heart cannot understand until they arrive. And perhaps, before I ever knew your name, my heart was already learning how to make room for you. I lived my life without knowing you existed. I woke up in mornings you knew nothing about. I walked through streets you had never seen me walk. I laughed with people who had never heard your voice. I dreamed dreams that didn't have your face anywhere inside them. And still, somewhere beneath the ordinary rhythm of my days, there was a feeling, a quiet knowing, that one day, someone would come along and make me understand why my heart had always felt like it was waiting. I just didn't know it would be you. Before I knew your name, I wondered what it would feel like to be truly seen, not looked at. Seen. There is a difference. To be looked at is to have someone notice your face. To be seen is to have someone notice your heart. The things you don't say, the feelings you hide, the dreams you are afraid to speak aloud, the parts of yourself you are still learning to understand. I didn't know that someday someone would look at me and somehow see past everything I had learned to hide. I didn't know someone would notice the silence behind my smile, the strength behind my softness, the questions behind my confidence, the tenderness I protected from the world. I didn't know you would become that person. Before I knew your name, I had already learned how to live without you. And perhaps that's important. Because when you finally came, you didn't complete me. You didn't save me. You didn't become the missing piece of some broken puzzle. You simply arrived and showed me that two whole people can meet and still make each other's lives more beautiful. That is the kind of love I had been waiting for. Not a love that says, you cannot live without me, but a love that whispers, you can live without me, but I'm grateful that we get to live some of this life together. Before I knew your name, I didn't know how much a voice could matter. I didn't know that hearing someone say your name could make the world feel strangely intimate. I didn't know that one person's laughter could become a sound your heart recognized instantly. I didn't know that a simple, how are you, could sometimes carry more tenderness than 1,000 beautiful words. Then I met you, and suddenly, I understood. Love doesn't always begin with a declaration. Sometimes it begins with attention, with noticing, with remembering, with wanting to know the person behind the smile. And I wanted to know you, not just the person you showed the world. I wanted to know who you were when nobody was watching, who you became when you were tired, what you thought about when the room became quiet, what memories still lived inside you, what made you laugh until you forgot the time, what made you afraid, what made you hopeful, what you wanted from this one precious life. I wanted to know the stories that shaped you, the moments that changed you, the people who loved you, the people who disappointed you, the dreams you had before the world taught you to be cautious. Because when I began to care about you, your past became part of the person I wanted to understand. I didn't want just your present. I wanted to understand the road that brought you here. Before I knew your name, I wondered if someone would ever make me feel safe enough to put down the armor I had carried for so long. I didn't know that safety could sound like a familiar voice. I didn't know it could feel like not having to explain every silence. I didn't know that sometimes The most intimate thing two people can share is the freedom to be quiet together. No performance, no pretending, no need to appear strong every second. Just presence, just understanding, just, I'm here. And somehow, those words can become a home. Before I knew your name, I thought love would be loud. I thought it would arrive with grand gestures and impossible promises. But you taught me that real love can be quiet. It can live in the little things. The way you remember something I said, the way you notice when my mood changes, the way you ask a question and actually wait for the answer, the way you listen without immediately trying to fix me, the way you allow me to be human. That kind of love doesn't need to shout. It simply stays. And perhaps that's what my heart had been waiting for. Not someone perfect, someone present, someone willing to see me, someone willing to know me slowly, someone who understands that love is not the fantasy of knowing everything about another person. It is the willingness to keep discovering them again and again and again, because people change, we grow, we learn, we become. And real love doesn't say, I know everything about you. It says, tell me who you are becoming. I want to know who you are becoming. I want to know what life is teaching you, what dreams you are still carrying, what parts of yourself you are learning to love, what tomorrow looks like in your imagination. Because loving you isn't only remembering who you were when I met you, it is making room for who you will become. Before I knew your name, I had no idea that another person's happiness could become something I genuinely cared about. Then you came along, and suddenly, I found myself hoping good things would find you. I hoped you would sleep peacefully. I hoped your difficult days would become lighter. I hoped you would find the courage to pursue the dreams you sometimes doubted. I hoped you would remember that you were worthy, even on the days when you didn't feel strong. And I realized this was love, not possession, not control, not needing to be the center of your world, just wanting life to be kind to you. Even when I couldn't make it kind myself. Before I knew your name, I had never imagined that another person's presence could change the way I experienced time. Then suddenly, a few minutes with you could feel like seconds. A goodbye could feel too soon. A conversation could stay in my thoughts long after it ended. And ordinary moments began to feel like memories while I was still living them. I began saving pieces of time without realizing it. The sound of your laughter, the look in your eyes, the words you said without thinking, the moments when you were simply yourself. Because the heart has a strange way of knowing when something matters. It tells you, pay attention, remember this. You will want this memory someday. Before I knew your name, I didn't know that love could make the smallest details feel important. I didn't know that a person's favorite song could matter, that their favorite place could matter, that the stories they tell repeatedly could matter, that even their silence could become familiar. But once someone matters to your heart, nothing about them feels completely ordinary. You begin to understand that people are made of countless little details, and loving someone is learning those details with tenderness, not collecting them to control them, but remembering them because they matter. I think that's what it means to truly see someone, to notice without judging, to listen without rushing, to understand without demanding perfection, to love without trying to rewrite who they are. Before I knew your name, I didn't know that being seen could feel so much like being loved. And now I understand. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give another person is simply to say, I see you. not the version you created for the world. You, the person beneath the expectations, the person beneath the achievements, the person beneath the mistakes, the person who sometimes doesn't know what to do next, the person who gets tired, the person who hopes, the person who sometimes needs reassurance, the person who wants to be loved without having to earn every ounce of it. I want you to know I see you. And somehow, before I knew your name, my heart was waiting for someone who could see me too. Maybe that is why meeting you felt different. There was something familiar about you that I couldn't explain, as though my heart recognized something my mind had never encountered. Not because we had met before, but because sometimes the right person doesn't feel unfamiliar for long. You become comfortable in a way that surprises you. You become important before you understand why. And one day, you realize that someone who was once a stranger has become a person you cannot imagine your story without. That happened with you. Slowly, quietly, beautifully. Before I knew your name, I had imagined love as something I would someday find. Now I think, perhaps love is something we discover inside the act of knowing someone. It isn't simply, I found you. It is, I keep discovering you. Every conversation reveals another layer. Every difficult moment teaches understanding. Every joyful moment creates another memory. Every season reveals another version of the person you love. And somehow, you keep choosing to know them. That is beautiful. Because love isn't a photograph. It isn't frozen. It is alive. It grows. It changes. It asks us to pay attention. Before I knew your name, I didn't know that my heart could become attached to someone's ordinary existence. Not just their beauty, not just their charm, not just the moments when they were at their best, but their ordinary humanity. The way they wake up, the way they think, the way they get distracted, the way they laugh, the way they become quiet, the way they sometimes don't know what to say, the way they keep going, even when life becomes difficult. Those things became beautiful to me because they were you. And I think that is when love stops being an idea and becomes real. When you stop loving a picture of someone and begin loving the person standing in front of you, not perfectly, not endlessly, but honestly. Before I knew your name, my heart was waiting, not desperately, not impatiently, just quietly, living, learning, growing, becoming. And then, one day, there you were, and I finally understood what all that waiting had been teaching me. It had been teaching me to recognize something real when it arrived. It had been teaching me to appreciate tenderness, to value honesty, to understand that love is not about finding someone who completes your life. It is about finding someone with whom you can share the fullness of the life you already have. Someone who sees your light without asking you to hide your shadows. Someone who knows your imperfections without using them against you. Someone who can say, I know you, and still say, I want to know you more. That is the kind of love my heart was waiting for. And maybe, before I knew your name, some part of me already knew that someday I would meet you. Not your face, not your voice, not your story, just the feeling of being seen, the feeling of being heard, the feeling of being accepted without having to become someone else first, the feeling of being able to breathe around another person, the feeling of looking at someone and thinking, I don't have to pretend here. That feeling is rare, and when you find it, you understand why the heart was patient, why some doors didn't open, why some people couldn't stay, why some chapters had to end. Sometimes life isn't denying you love. Sometimes it is preparing you to recognize a healthier kind when it arrives. And perhaps that is what happened. I had to become the person I was before I could recognize the person you would become to me. So before I knew your name, my heart was waiting. And now that I know it, I understand something I couldn't have understood before. Your name isn't just a collection of sounds. It carries memories, laughter, conversations, moments, hope. And every time I hear it, I remember the ordinary miracle of having met you. I remember that once you were a stranger, and now you are part of the story my heart tells itself when it remembers what love can feel like. Before I knew your name, I didn't know what I was waiting for. Now I do. I was waiting for a love that didn't need perfection, a love that could listen, a love that could stay gentle, a love that could see the person beneath the surface, a love that could say, you don't have to perform to be worthy of being loved, a love that could look at an ordinary day and still find beauty, a love that could hold space for two imperfect people to grow, a love that could choose freedom over possession, understanding over judgment, presence over promises, truth over appearances, and perhaps most importantly, a love that could see me and still let me be myself. Before I knew your name, my heart was waiting. And now, when I think about that waiting, I don't see it as emptiness anymore. I see it as preparation, as growth, as life quietly teaching me that the right kind of love doesn't always arrive when you expect it. Sometimes it arrives when you have stopped looking for it. Sometimes it enters through an ordinary door on an ordinary day. Sometimes it begins with a simple conversation, a smile, a name, a moment, and then, without warning, the person you didn't know yesterday becomes someone your heart cannot forget. So if I ever tell you, I feel like my heart was waiting for you, I don't mean that I was incomplete without you. I mean something much more beautiful. I mean that everything I experienced before you, every lesson, every disappointment, every season of solitude, every moment when I wondered whether I would ever be truly understood, prepared me to recognize the beauty of being seen. And when you arrived, I recognized it, not because I knew where our story would lead, not because I knew how long it would last, but because, for the first time, my heart whispered, here you are. And perhaps, before I ever knew your name, some quiet part of me had been waiting to say exactly that.